It's so badass and there are people stand in front of shit that they destroy. Oh, shit. I think that people give Ian too much credit. I really do. I think that the game was already going down a bad road before Ian. I think that Ian's main problem, this is what I think. I think that Ian's main problem is that he doesn't understand how the players feel. He gets how the game works. He's really smart. And I think Ian is an example. This might be me, assuming too much, right? But in my opinion, I think Ian is an example of somebody who does a really, really great job, and they keep getting promoted into something until they are promoted to a position where they are no longer doing a great job. Because I think that Ian is a phenomenal encounter designer. My understanding is, you know what the first raid that Ian ever worked on was? It was like the boss fight in Trial of the Crusader with like all the faction champions, which was really fucking cool. And you know who the first raid was that he was apparently the lead designer on? Throne of Thunder. Ian is a god. Ian is a goated. He is insane at making raid fights. This guy is a god at making raid fights. But that does not mean that you understand how the players feel. I think that this is the problem. Whenever Ian is explaining how players should feel whenever a system affects them, I think that is just such a huge breakdown. And that's the thing. I would love if Ian just made the raids and they took somebody else that like really understood how players feel more so, and they put them in charge of that, because I think that's what the problem is. That's what it comes down to. Ian really knows what he's doing. And also, I want to say, with Sanctum of Domination, that raid is incredible. It is such a good raid. It is an amazing, really, really great raid. It has a great scope to it. It's basically supposed to be, and by the way, people are like, oh, it's ICC. That's literally the way the story is supposed to be told. That Icecrown Citadel is the representation of the Sanctum of the Damned in the mortal world. So it would make sense that it looks like ICC. So, and I think that's smart, right? Like that you actually create into the lore. And this is smart, right? I think this is one of the smartest things Blizzard did with Shadowlands, is that they literally put inside of the lore that they're going to use reskins. They said reskins are part of the lore, and you're going to love it. And you know what? I think it worked pretty fucking well. It was really smart. 3 easy steps to failure. What is this here? Advice from Yoshi P. What is this? An unhealthy obsession with graphic quality. True, I think that's accurate. A surprising lack of MMORPG knowledge amongst the development team members. See, this is actually very true. Like, I think this needs to be stated more often, is that if you have people that don't fucking play MMORPGs, they don't know anything about MMORPGs, and then it's like, oh man, I don't know why these people keep designing a bad game. Big fucking surprise, because they don't even play it. And this is a problem, right? And like, I worry so much about this with WoW, is like, how much time are developers spending and putting into the game playing it the same way that like a normal person is? Because if you're not playing the game, like here's an example. It's always been a meme that whenever Ian's guild gets to a boss, the boss will get nerfed. That should have happened on like the first week. That should have happened in like the first month. Because it's good that whenever, like, that's the way the game should work. Because you have to understand what that means, right? That means that Ian play tested the boss, realized that it's fucked up or annoying or too hard or dysfunctional in a certain way, and they came and they fixed it. And yeah, people can beat it without the fixes, absolutely, but usually overcoming an unfair system or an annoying boss fight doesn't feel as good as whenever you're beating a boss that's actually like really, really hard and really challenging, and also very rewarding. I think like Lich King is a good example of this. Lich King didn't really have any crazy mechanics. He just did really big numbers. And I think that's the way that I look at it too, man. So let's see here. The mindset that the problem to every problem could be patched in a future update. Solution to every problem could be patched in a future update. Like, I honestly, this is one of the things that, like this one right here, like number 3, this is one of the things that bothers me the most about the way that Blizzard has been designing WoW recently, is that every problem that they have like this system in their own, you know, at the company, and it's like, oh, we can't fix this kind of problem until it's a big major patch, and oh, well, this is a 0.5 patch, so we can't overhaul a system, or oh, well, this is a expansion feature, so we can't change it until next expansion. Like, what are you talking about? These are your own rules. Like, you made this rule. That there's nobody that says this is the case. You just invented this. And the reality is that, like, wow, like, I would understand if this was something that was like DLC, right? Like, let's say you buy every patch for like $10 or something like that. And it's like DLC for a game, and like, you know, expansions or DLC. But like, the reality is that people pay a sub for WoW. And because they pay a sub, I think that they should fucking expect to have if you have a problem, you fix the problem today. You fix it today. You don't wait till tomorrow. You don't wait till, oh, later, you know, we'll just get to it whenever we have a chance. No, man. Absolutely fucking not. Fix it today. Get it fixed. Like, why is it that people have to wait even a second? If Blizzard knows there's a problem, patch it tomorrow. Get it done as soon as possible, man. Says you? Wait, what do you mean? Well, no, I know. I know that, and that's why I don't work. See, the thing is, like, if I was doing that at a company, I'd be doing a bad job, man. That's all I'm really trying to say. Not everything can be patched. You realize that 8.2 is a patch, right? What do you mean it can't be patched? Absolutely it can. Like, I guarantee you, like, 8.2 was, the whole raid was a patch. I don't want to hear about, oh, well, they can't, oh, well, it's more complicated than that. Yeah, I know it's more complicated than that. But you know what's not? The game being broken. And the game is broken is so simple. The game don't work. Boom. That's all you need to say. And you don't need to be a network engineer. You don't need to be a programmer with 20 years of experience to fucking see this. And like, it doesn't, the thing is that, I think it was Ghostcrawler that said this, I think this is very accurate, is that you don't necessarily rely on players to provide a solution, but you do rely on them to identify a problem. And even in that way, right, it's basically what he's saying is, like, even though they don't really know what they're doing with game design, you should still listen to what they're saying, because they're the ones that, you know, it's like, it's an unironic the customer is always right. Because if the players are not enjoying content, then I think that's really what it comes down to more than anything else, man. And especially with, like, all the stuff that happened with, like, Azerite gear, the corruption vendor, and that kind of stuff. Like, in my opinion, I think Blizzard needs to be much faster with applying fixes and changes to the game whenever there are systems in the game that are dysfunctional. I really don't like it. I think this is probably one of my main, like, if I had to say, this could be one of my pet peeves with World of Warcraft right now, is the fact that we have to sit through, you know, months of a bad system that everybody knows is bad. And anyway, let's see here, what we've learned. Never forget the fans. Without them, there would be no us. Fun comes first. If it isn't fun, you're doing it wrong. Never back down. Always aim to amaze. Don't forget your roots. It's what fans crave. I think that to some degree, like, all of these are very true. And, like, making sure that you have people that, that care about that, especially in terms of, like, the fun aspect, because a lot of people don't really talk about this a whole lot, but I think that it's actually very important, is the fun aspect is extremely important. And if you don't have that fun aspect, you're just doing yourself a really, really big disservice, and you're actually hurting the entire game. So I really hope that Blizzard and these other companies, you know, they can look at this and try to improve things, okay? I definitely think so. Grinding isn't fun, but the reward at the end is? Well, then, so, like, fun is, like, I think that, like, whenever I think of the word fun, I actually don't think fun is the right word. I think the right word is fulfillment. And fulfillment is so much bigger and so much more important than fun. Like, fun is something that you do for, like, 3 minutes. Fulfillment is what makes you come back for years. And whenever you go and you're playing these games and you farm for something and you finally get it, after I finally get my reward, and I'm happy, right? And this is the same in Final Fantasy, this is the same in WoW. Every game has things that are like this. Whenever you finally reach that reward, that feels good. Was it fun farming for that reward? No, I probably don't think that it was. But it's not about being fun, it's about being fulfilling. And I think that's the main thing that, like, they've lost out on. Running an RPG is like running a company. Learn to listen and adapt. A complaint is worth twice a compliment. The silent always leave first. If citizens are complaining, it means they still care. And I really, really like this logic. I really, really do. And here's why I like it. Because it completely contradicts the ridiculous and stupid idea that all the people that are playing the game that are not actively upset about something somehow like it. The silent majority of people. I hate it whenever people assume that the silent majority of people here are not, you know, they're not doing anything like this. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And so, yeah, I think that people that are not, people that complain, obviously you want to listen to them. Absolutely. You can tell they pretty often listen to player feedback. Yeah, exactly, man. 100%. Final Fantasy Dev is known to scour the forums for complaints and advices. Yeah, exactly. Like, honestly, as I said, my biggest advice to Final Fantasy, please make it easier to just buy the game. Like, just add like a button menu on your launcher to where you just click through, you know, and it's like a list of like all the ones you have activated. Like, just let people buy your game. Like, imagine that's the biggest problem that you have. Like, just let people buy the game. And like, obviously I don't play the whole, I don't know, like I know like 2% of the whole game, 5% of the whole game. So I don't really understand a whole lot of it. So I can't really say what problems are in the game, but overall that's definitely something that's a huge fucking problem. I think it's dog shit. Absolute dog shit. Sums it up. What's this here? Dude, I thought this costume was fucking badass, man. Like, straight up, this was really, really, really cool. Like, there's very few times that I see something like this, a cosplay, that doesn't look cringe, but this is actually one of the coolest cosplays I've seen in a long fucking time, man. This was fucking badass. Like, even if it wasn't, like, I know I was like the lead dev guy, but like, even if it wasn't, I still would have thought this was cool. I still would have, because it is. That's all there is to it. It's fucking awesome. Okay, so, the Gold Saucer will allow you to do various fun activities. Each week, you will earn Aetheryte power throughout these activities in order to empower your Void-powered legendary item, significantly increasing its power. You're free to do them at any time of the week, however, there are diminishing returns on each activity in order to prevent players from just spamming the most efficient one. The most effective way to cap your Aetheryte power for the week will be to do every activity at least once. Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah, I don't know what to say about it, guys. I really don't. It seems like it's quite true. That's the worst part about it. If you want WoW to be better, don't be a jerk. It's hilarious. The thing is that, like, everybody blames the community. Like, oh, it's the community's fault. It's the community's fault. Maybe it's Blizzard's fault for creating these loose environments. Like, the reason why Mythic Plus is... The reason why it's toxic is because if you do it wrong and you fuck up a Mythic Plus, you lose your key. I guarantee you, if all you had to do was open the dungeon and then go through it, you would not have that happen. The systems create toxicity, and this is actually, like, I've been playing Final Fantasy, right? I've been going through that. This is an insight that I realized in Final Fantasy, and this is gonna sound like really meta and like kind of probably like Psychology Andy. But the story in Final Fantasy is fundamentally more forgiving. So I'll give you an example. Do you remember the guy that was going to summon everybody to be like sacrificed to that god, Ifrit? We gave that guy chance after chance after chance. And so many times in the story, it shows an individual in the story who does something bad, who is given a second chance, or is given some form of a redemption, or it's like, oh, well, maybe he'll come around, maybe it'll be okay. And yeah, Ungus, yeah, whatever, Ungus, who the fuck knows what his name is? And I think that creating a narrative like that does, at least subconsciously, shift players' perspective. And I think that players do shape the way that they interact with their players to some degree around the narrative of the game. And because that happens, I think that having a story like that does lend itself towards motivating, or at least giving people the idea of giving other people in the game a second chance. And I like, yeah, it's very interesting to think about that, right? But I do think that the story and the narrative of the story does lend itself towards creating the idea and putting the idea in people's heads of forgiveness, of second chances, of being understanding, much more so than the WoW story. And I think that does somehow rub off on the player base to some certain degree.